Good morning all, and a warm welcome to you and to our video listeners. We hope you're well, and we'd like just to offer you a very happy and prosperous 2025. Because we are living in a wonderful world at present. And the title of this I have put peace, peace, and no peace. That's what the Lord said. We would have peace, peace, and no peace. And then peace and tribulation. So, there is not very much peace around this earth today. But the question is, do you know how to have peace in your life? You see, if we turn on the television, we all have Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, wars, parts of Africa in wars, fires, floods, volcanoes, landslides, etc., etc. They're just a continuation in one thing after the other, because you can't even keep your memory on the things that's been happening for the people until something else comes up and takes its place. And if we turn on our radios, it's just talk, 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 and agitation continuously. Even our entertainment is complete of murders and conflict. And our world leaders want peace. We have our President Trump now is going around the world to try and get peace. But peace at what price? Will it satisfy everybody? But the problem is they really don't know how to get peace. They want prosperity for all their peoples, but they don't know how to get it. And we have multiple murders daily in our schools, on our streets, and even in our own homes. But they don't know how to deal with these. The question is, would you know how to deal with this? You see, there is a cause and effect for every effect. There's a cause for every ill and evil. And our people and our world, our whole earth, is suffering under bad management. You see, a long time ago, a great number of people suffered greatly under a cruel leadership, just as there still is today in areas all around the world. Just bad management. Bad management doesn't make for a good workforce, because people don't work under bad management. But this group of people knew what hardship was. But if they had their freedom, would they know how to rule as well? Would they know how to rule justly? Would they just become the same as their captors? And that seems to be the way of the world everywhere. And it's again bad management. Now, this particular people were delivered because of a promise made to one man and his family. And that was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who trusted and believed God. Now, this particular people who left Egypt, I dare say, had not much in the way of management skills. How would they manage about this vast multitude of people? And they reckon there was over 1 million of them. So that was quite a crowd, because you could go to a football match and you see maybe about 40,000 people and you think, oh, that's a great crowd. But they never call it a multitude of people. It's just a crowd of people. Same with those rallies on the streets. They're just a crowd of people. So there could be more than 1 million people that left Egypt that time. And they were going to have to learn to govern themselves. So what was the answer to all their ills? I think I'd better take a drop of water. Excuse me. You see, God took them across the Red Sea. He took them into a land and he brought them to Mount Sinai to tell them and to give them how to work, how to live, to give them statutes. And he took Moses and the heads of the 12 tribes Now, before he even did that, he divided the people up into 12 lots, 12 families, 12 groups. And he put a head at the top of each one of those. And then down through the line, they went managers, down through that. And the thing is, and they give them each a standard. Now, it would be very interesting to see what those standards are in the earth today. Do they still exist? Are they part of tribes somewhere in the earth? It'll be, I don't know where you could Google that or not, but it would be interesting to see. But as I say, he divided them up into 12 tribes, and with heads of divisions over the various numbers of people. Then God took Moses and Aaron and Joshua and those heads of the tribes up into the mountain, and he gave them a whole infantry of management skills and to how to rule and to live for a peaceful and prosperous life for all the people. Now, in Deuteronomy 4, I'm going to read those because they're very much, because God did tell them to take heed. So that's in Deuteronomy 4. I'm actually reading from this one, which is a bit better of the translation. And it's amazing how just little snippets can make a difference. But chapter 4, it says, "And now, O Israel," and you can put in any country on that, this thing doesn't only hearken till Israel. It says, "Hearken to the statutes and to the judgments which I teach you, in order to do them, so that you may live and go in and possess the land which the Lord God of your fathers gives to you. You shall not add to the word which I command you, neither shall you take away from it, so that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you." And he goes on to say, "Your eyes have seen what the Lord did because of Baal-peor. For the Lord your God has destroyed from among you all the men that followed Baal-peor. And you who held fast to the Lord," now that's a very important point here, "you who held fast to the Lord your God are alive today, every one of you to this day, because they obeyed. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded you, so that you should do so in the land where you go in to possess it. And you shall keep and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding." Now that's what the commands of God is for your wisdom and understanding, to live in the sight of the nations. And you see, today, if our nations used to keep those, Britain and America, Australia, all those nations kept the laws of God and adhered to them, and they were great. They call it Great Britain, but they seem to have lost all that now. They're turning away from it, and they're going down. They're not prosperous, and they're just not living well. And it says, "In the sight of the nations which shall hear of all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people." And that's what it used to be. "For what nation is so great whose God is so near to them as the Lord our God is, whenever we call upon him?" So, and what great nation has statutes and judgments that are so righteous? So all this law which I set before you today. Only take heed to yourselves, and diligently keep yourselves, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen. And I suppose that was the wiping out of lots of people. "And lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life." So we really have to keep these in mind. "And then teach them to your children and to your children's children." So you see, you are to take heed of these, the statutes and the laws of God. But by following just 10 commandments, it will bring peace and justice to this land. Think about what it would be if everybody just adhered to those 10. You see, I'm going to turn now to Psalm 18. And I'm going to read quite a few verses in this because it's very important. For this was David, and he wrote this psalm in this praise of the Lord. In the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. And David did suffer a lot from what he went through with Saul, trying to murder him umpteen times, and from all the wars that he was in. But he says, I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock, in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my high tower. I will call on the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The cords of death hemmed me in, and the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. The cords of the grave surrounded me. The snares of death confronted me. And in my distress I called on the Lord, and I cried to my God, and he heard my voice out of his temple. And my cry came up before him into his ears. And then the earth shook and trembled, and the foundations also of the hills moved and were shaken, because he was angry. Smoke went up out of his nostrils, and fire out of his mouth devoured. Coals flamed forth from him. And he barred the heavens and came down, and thick darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub, and flew. Yeah, he soared upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his secret place. His pavilion around him was dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. At the brightness before him, his dark clouds passed through with hailstones and coals of fire. And the Lord also thundered in the heavens. And the Most High gave forth his voice with hailstones and coals of fire. We've seen that today, too, in all the strong winds and things that's going on today. You see, God is still angry too with the world and what it's doing to the earth. Yeah, he sent out his arrows and scattered them, and he shot out lightnings and crushed them. Then the channels of waters were seen, and the foundations of the world were laid bare at your rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of your breath of your nostrils. I guess that was a bit like a tsunami, whenever the sea receded. He sent from above, and he took me, and he drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy and from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my stay. He brought me forth also into a large place, and he delivered me because he delighted in me. Now remember that word. The Lord delighted in David. He said he was a man after his own heart. The Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanliness of my hands, he has repaid me. Now this is the important part. For I have kept the ways of the Lord, and have not wickedly departed from my God. For all his ordinances were before me, and I did not put away his statutes from me. I was also blameless before him, and I kept myself from iniquity. Therefore, the Lord has recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanliness of my hands in his eyes. And he goes on to say, with the merciful you will show yourself merciful. With an upright man you will show yourself upright. With the pure you will show yourself pure. And with the crooked you will show yourself cunning. Now this is why David got God's blessing on him, for that he'll take him out of his dangers. Because David obeyed, and God knew that. David prayed, and God heard him. And David thanked God for everything. and God was pleased. And David rejoiced in the Lord. And see, that is what needs to be done. Obedience, prayer, and thankfulness go hand in hand for peaceful living. When you obey, and it doesn't matter whether it's an individual, a family, or a government, it takes that obedience to God's laws and ordinances with thankfulness and prayer. And there again, we are to teach these laws to our children and our grandchildren, that they may learn discernment to the company that they keep, and to know right from wrong. Too many children are left now, sometimes with parents out working, they're left to other people to rear them, and that doesn't necessarily say it makes for a good, sound upbringing of children. But we are to practice these because our physical and our spiritual lives depend on them, because we depend on God for even every breath we take. But we have entered into a very evil age, and each one of us needs a protector. Now, we'll all get trials, because they're common to everyone. We will all have them, but if we follow David's example, we will have God's goodness and kindness towards us. Because Ezekiel 33 and verse 19 says, "When the wicked turn from his wickedness and does what is lawful and right, he shall live in it." So you can turn from your wickedness and God will forgive. Now, I'm going to turn to Ezekiel, because this is what God says about the majority of people. So Ezekiel 33 and verse 30, there's a couple of verses there. He says, "And you, son of man," now I'll go back a couple of verses because I'll tell you what the story of that is. God had brought, the people were doing just what they do today. They were doing their own thing. And God said he was going to destroy them. And he sent Ezekiel to tell them that. And of course Ezekiel did, but like everything, not too many people pay much attention. And that's just exactly what God's saying here. He says, "I shall make the land most desolate, and the pride of her power shall cease." Isn't the pride of our power in Britain ceasing, even in America? "And the mountains of Israel shall be desolate, so that none shall pass through. And they shall know that I am the Lord, when I have made the land most desolate, because of all their abominations which they have committed." And we have plenty of abominations before God today. "And you, son of man, the children of your people are still talking about you by the walls." This is talking about Ezekiel and what he was saying. "And in the doors of the houses, and speaking to one another, each man to his brother, saying, I pray you, come and hear what is the word which comes forth from the Lord. And they come to you as the people come, and they sit before you as my people, and they hear your words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goes after their own covetousness. And lo, you are to them a singer of love songs with a beautiful voice, and able to play well on an instrument. For they hear your words, but they do not do them. And when this comes to pass, because behold, it will come, the destruction, then they shall know that a prophet has been amongst them." So you see, this is what goes on from the beginning of time, probably. There's lots of people, they go to church, but do they keep God's commandments? Do they know them? Do they even know what God's commandments say? Some say they don't need them. They're not for today. They're not for the 21st century. We don't need God. You see, everyone has Bibles, so there is no excuses when you come before your Maker on Judgment Day. Because you are to read, learn, study, and ask, because it is your responsibility. because the Lord declares also that he will not hold us guiltless. But he also declares to those who heed, my peace I leave with you, not as the world gives, do I give it to you. Let not your heart be troubled, nor let it fear. You'll find that in John 14, verse 27. And if you are a fearful person, print this verse and stick it up where you can see it every day, and read it every day until you can learn to trust in God. Because it is God's wish that all his created children will learn his ways and live and love peace and obedience. And we are to do that, love and peace and obedience. That's when his glorious Son returns, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. We will be delighted to see him, to meet him, and not fearful. Because Jesus has said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. So many people don't understand that situation. They think if you just be loved, that's all there is to it. But there is obedience. But if we love God by keeping his commandments, we will have no reason to be fearful. That is how you will have peace in a troubled world, and you will govern your own household in peace and love. And I shall say shalom. So thank you very much, and God bless you all.